All right, we're on the clock. Might as well get started.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome, everybody. We're really glad that you're here. I don't like to make bold statements, but I'm going to make one. I guarantee you, of all the sessions that you've ever heard on this topic or anything similar, I absolutely guarantee you that this one, without question, will be the most recent. I'm John Wollman. I'm with Komodo Health. I've been with Komodo about 4 years, and tomorrow marks my 39th year in healthcare and life sciences, technology, data, and software. 39 years. And in that time period, I've learned a thing or two, and we hope to impart some of that here today. I have my colleague here, Mark Lee.
Hey folks, my name is Mark Lee. I work for Databricks. I lead our industry ecosystems for go-to-market for healthcare and life sciences. So I've actually started my career at Databricks as a solutions architect. So I've navigated from, I would say, understanding more of our customers' challenges and pains from an individual customer level, all the way up to the industry level at this point, and really figuring out how we can actually drive the healthcare and life sciences industry forwards using our powerful technology.
Great. Well, the topic today is we're talking about how data sharing is revolutionizing healthcare and life sciences. We're really focused on life sciences here today, and I want to make one caveat. This is a beginner level session. If you were expecting a deep dive into any of this, that's probably not going to happen today in the next 40 minutes. But if you would like a deeper dive on any of this, Mark or I, we're happy to spend as much time or as little time with you as you would like. The fundamental premise that we're talking about here today is that data sharing in life sciences and healthcare is really accomplishing three things. One is to improve patient outcomes. It's being able to leverage de-identified longitudinal patient data to be able to improve the health and wellness of Americans, essentially, and probably globally as well. The second thing is to prove and provide operational efficiencies for pharmaceutical companies, other life sciences companies, healthcare companies, and their stakeholders. And the third thing is to make sure that we're delivering groundbreaking research that brings new technologies, new innovation, new pharmaceutical products, new medical interventions, new digital interventions to market that help accomplish the other two objectives. So what we're trying to do here today, our objectives are first to talk about how de-identified longitudinal patient records, real-world evidence, and the confluence of that and delta sharing and other technologies that Databricks is bringing to market can help impact those three things that we talked about before. And we hope to give you practical examples of how our mutual customers, are using Databricks technology and Komodo's data to affect those things. We also want to hopefully answer some questions that you might have along the lines there, and we're happy to do that towards the end of the presentation. We'll get you out on time. And Mark's going to talk about the focus within Databricks.
Absolutely. So if you ask me, when I joined this company about 4 years and I would say 9 months ago at this point, we were really geared towards understanding how our customers' pains could be solved by utilizing technology itself. And by pains, I meant, what is your data platform today? What could your data platform actually be tomorrow? Are you leveraging legacy technology? How can we help you move into a much more modern Spark-based stack? 4 years later, that is still a focus of our company, but our company understands that as we grow our revenue, we need to really understand what the industry wants. What are the outcomes that the industry is looking to actually solve today? And what we've done is a survey over the entire healthcare and life sciences industry, and we've come up with a series of different outcomes that we find that most of our customers desire. Now, what you see here is life sciences and healthcare, since we are representing health sciences and healthcare and life sciences vertical. And really specifically, we see folks want to look into increasing R&D productivity within life sciences today. How can we leverage modern multi-omics technologies? How can we leverage things like fair data platforms? And how can we streamline clinical developments? We're also looking at optimizing supply chain manufacturing, looking at supply chain visibilities and smart manufacturing, as well as improving commercial effectiveness. On the healthcare side, we're partnering very heavily with Komodo Health in this case to work on figuring out how we can implement more interoperability, automate clinical reviews, how we can actually improve operating efficiencies for a lot of providers, and how we can drive a better quality of care with things like HEDIS measures and also optimize networks and referrals. Now, these are all really important to us because as Databricks is reaching its next chapter in its particular journey throughout, I would say this really large rocket ship at this point, we want to understand how we can help fulfill our customers' needs and how we can help them fulfill that, not by building it ourselves, because we understand the ecosystem is much bigger than Databricks, but actually leveraging our partners like Komodo Health, our SI partners as well, and our built-on partners to really specifically develop solutions that our customers can take to market immediately.
So, who is Komodo Health? This is just a one-slide commercial, and then we'll delve into the real content here. If you don't know Komodo Health, we're about a $300 million company that's trying to reduce the burden of disease globally. We're trusted. If you look at the clients that we work with, in the past 2 years, we've served 19 of the top 20 pharmaceutical companies. We are proven. We believe we're trying to establish ourselves as the evidentiary standard for the industry. Our data is used in publications, peer-reviewed publications throughout the world by many pharmaceutical and healthcare companies. And we're established. We have about 700 people. We operate across the United States and in some cases globally. And as I mentioned, we're about a $300 million company invested in by some of the world's best investment companies. Our mission, as I mentioned, is to reduce the burden of disease. We intend to accomplish that by fulfilling the promise of being the evidentiary standard for the industry. Enough about us. Healthcare data is very difficult. It's really hard to see patient journeys. It's very hard to understand what's happening in the ground truth in the US healthcare system. And by the way, I asked ChatGPT earlier today, I said, tell me something funny about the US healthcare system in order to have a nice joke for my audience here today. And they said, there's nothing funny about the US healthcare system. And it really isn't. So if you look at the data sources that you have and what we call open data, data that you can procure from switches and other kinds of places, you might see the early part of a patient's journey. You might see a diagnosis, a lab test, and somebody go on a first line of therapy. And then it might go dark until they're on the third line of therapy because the second line of therapy might be blocked by the specialty pharmaceutical company. So you might have this hard to see patient journey. What we're trying to do is take all of the points within the patient journey, whether it's genomic data, lab tests, social determinants of health data, claims data, EMR data, fuse that all together so that you get a really good view of all of the patient journeys. And that's what we have in our healthcare map. There's other companies that do similar things. But what's really important if you're going to be using these longitudinal de-identified patient records is your data needs to be comprehensive. You need to obviously have a good view of most of the population that you're serving. It needs to be representative and not biased in any one direction. It needs to be accurate. Obviously, if you're making decisions that impact patients' lives and their outcomes, it needs to be very accurate. It needs to be stable. You need to be able to see things longitudinally over time. It needs to be linkable, and it's funny, I saw Shahir here earlier, who revolutionized the linkability in the market at Datavant. So linkability is very important so that you can take data from lots of different sources and be able to link it together to fuse that patient journey together. And most importantly, these days, which is why we're here at Databricks and talking about delta sharing, is it needs to be timely. This used to be a very slow-moving industry, life sciences, and now it's moving much faster and has to move much faster and adapt. So what we're trying to do is take our healthcare map. We're trying to then build it into an analytics platform, which includes lots of technologies from Databricks, and it needs to be able to be AI ready and using AI to be able to lead and increase the efficacy and the availability of the data and make it faster. So what's happening in the industry? There's new market forces. I'm going to say new with quotes here. Some of these things have been around for a while. They're just changing. One of the things is that the government's a little bit more unpredictable these days, one might say. Not quite sure what they're going to do. But certainly the government and consumers are looking for lower prices. The Inflation Reduction Act was certainly impactful to this industry. There's things happening now around most favored nations that could have real impacts as well. And patients want less out-of-pocket costs. That's a given. There's stiffened competition in therapeutic areas. If you don't believe this, if you look at the GLP-1 space, relatively new space, you have the big leaders with Novo and Lilly that were first to market, but now you have Amgen and Viking and lots of other companies that are trying to bring to market in the same therapeutic area, the same type of a drug, same type of a capability. You have patients and physicians that have access to ChatGPT and Google. Everyone's diagnosing themselves and they want to know and understand more about healthcare. AI is accelerating everything. All the physicians that we work with, that we support through our customers, they've all gone digital. Patients have gone digital. They expect things to happen in digital timeframes. And we have biosimilars are eroding markets, eroding margins for a lot of these companies. So it's really a difficult time to be in the pharmaceutical space. So there's new technologies that help to lessen some of that pain.
Absolutely. And I'll say that the Komodo Health partnership with Databricks actually probably started about 3 to 4 years ago, where Komodo Health was building out their Sentinel platform. And they came to Databricks and asked a very clear question. How can I actually leverage Spark technology today with my customers without having to manage Spark? And our answer to that was, well, guess what we build? We build a managed Databricks Spark platform at this point. This is probably why you're talking to us. And since then, the Sentinel technology has continued existing within Komodo's system. But since Komodo Healthcare data has become so prevalent throughout the entire industry, many of our customers today are actually utilizing Komodo Healthcare data quite actively. And they said, you know what? We heard that this technology already exists within Komodo systems. We also want to leverage those exact same technologies within our Databricks systems as well. And we said, that's a really good point in this case. I wonder if we can find a way to actually share that data over from Komodo healthcare systems. And one response you always get is, what about SFTP? And we're like, SFTP is always an option. But
so are carrier pigeons.
I think we're more of a forward-thinking company from the both of us in this case. So we have this technology called delta sharing. It's already generally available at this point, and it provides the ability to access your data from any particular cloud and any system with full governance, auditing, and lineage. This sounds like a really good use case for healthcare. We talked to Komodo, and in this case, I said, you know what? I think that our customers would really want to leverage your data. They want to get very timely, fresh data, and they want to go through, avoid the entire very lengthy ingestion process. And I think we can do that. We can do that actually with just a click of a button at this point. This is called delta sharing on our side. Now, we are the leading data and AI company. We've done many, many things. We've open sourced many different products. Delta sharing itself is an open protocol. While we are one of the main developers of the open protocol, and we have our very powerful Unity catalog server, and we also open sourced a reference server for folks, we have other companies actually implementing their own form of delta sharing as well. As I always say, Oracle actually has their own form of delta sharing running off of their own delta sharing server. That's going to be pretty important when you're pulling in some EHR data, for example. Now, this open source approach for secure, governed, and live data sharing across multiple different clouds and multiple different platforms is key to how Databricks sees the industry itself growing. We don't see everybody just living within a single cloud within the healthcare and life science section. We think people are going to leverage the best of different clouds. And very importantly, they're going to want those particular data sets to exist without any kind of lock-in associated with that. So what we built with Komodo Health is a click of a button. We simply turned on delta sharing. So that's a very powerful combination at this point. So since they've been using our Databricks AI capabilities, they not only use delta sharing, they also leverage our generative AI deployment stacks within the Komodo MapAI product. We're actually going to have a demo with that later. And we've also expanded this partnership to deliver Komodo's patient journey insights via Databricks delta sharing as well. We are working on onboarding more and more different types of Komodo healthcare data sets from their side in order to actually get that over to our Databricks customers today. And we also have real-time access to the healthcare map as well. So we have streamlined access to a lot of their healthcare analytics and data products. Obviously, there's going to be, because now we have much more quick deliveries, we have to have a larger improvement of time for value. And very importantly, when we're moving over this data, while the Komodo healthcare data is undoubtedly de-identified by some of the technology from one of our guests in the audience over there as its first development, we also want to make sure that data, when it's being transferred over, is still going to be securely governed and audited within the Databricks environment and within the delta sharing protocol itself. And this means you can actually ensure you have compliance over your particular data set today without sacrificing the ability to get insights out of it. Now, that's really where we're really partnering very, very strongly together. We're working to unlock insights across the entire product lifecycle for a lot of different use cases for this healthcare data. So for example, we're looking at the pre-launch systems for the market landscape. We're trying to find out what are the different cohorts, patient cohorts that are available that we can actually generate today. Where are the target growth for, where's target growth and where's development opportunities? How can we do what we call market basket assessments? Then we can utilize that same insurance information that actually comes from Komodo's healthcare map to actually build patient segmentation at this point. So we can start really crafting the patient journey and define really granular information about different patient populations, and we can target those, really importantly, for clinical trials and strategic commercial activities. We're gonna talk about HEOR studies later with John in this case, and then we can go even further down the stack and think more about like how can we actually look at the provider and the payer segmentation as well. How do we find the right providers with clinical trial experience? How do we unlock the market potential with prescribing patterns for more efficient targeting? And how do we actually improve medical education at this point? I think one of the most common use cases I always find is we have a particular provider that's trying to figure out, you know what, I would like to prescribe this drug. What are the actual contraindications associated with this drug? More importantly, what are the discounts associated with this drug as well? Leveraging these kinds of technologies, we can actually pull all different sorts of data sets coming in, augment that with the Komodo healthcare data, and very importantly, surface those kinds of insights. And then that's where we can start talking about the launch sections where we can actually look at field planning, where we can optimize a lot of territories and engagements with insights into providers, HCOs, payers, and referrals. And then, as always, we can look at performance monitoring. So we can measure how the TRX market's working, the NBRX, the NRX. Are we seeing conversions associated with that? What kind of market share and adherence and other metrics do we actually want to look at? So with that in mind, we're going to go into a Komodo healthcare data product that actually is built directly on top of Databricks today called MapAI. This was recently released, right?
About a year ago.
About a year ago in this case, yes. This is going to leverage a lot of powers of the Databricks data intelligence platform itself and ability to deploy these kinds of models.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I'm going to start a new chat, and maybe I'm interested in finding out about a drug called Ibrance. So I might just say, what is Ibrance? And it'll come up with some information. Ibrance is a breast cancer product from Pfizer. It's telling me that it's a CDK4/6 inhibitor, giving me information about the label. That's very interesting. But maybe I'll want to know a little bit more. So what is Ibrance indicated for? And as I mentioned, you can see here it's a drug that's used as CDK4 inhibitor for breast cancer. And here I get a little bit more information that it's for HEOR, sorry, I was quick there. It's for hormone receptor positive, HER2 negative advanced breast cancer. Wonderful. I can see how many patients were using Ibrance. I can see how many healthcare professionals, how many healthcare events occurred there. And now I might want to get a little bit further information. So how many patients, female patients, took Ibrance in, say, 2024. And maybe I'm interested in by age, between 45 and 60 years old. And maybe I'll ask for that. And it'll take this cohort that we built for Ibrance, and it'll go ahead and give me a response. It'll count for female, of course, here between 45 and 60. And it's telling me now how many patients there were there. Maybe I'm interested in patient insurance. So I might say graph this by payer. And maybe I'm also interested in understanding the race and ethnicity breakdown of this cohort. So here you can see the insurance that we have here. You can see that Aetna is the predominant insurer here, and Medicare fee for service, et cetera, et cetera. I might want to graph this by race and ethnicity. So I could ask the question here, and it'll produce the patients. You can see here it's predominantly white patients, and then you can see all of the different races and ethnicity that happen to be in this particular cohort. So just a quick example of using advanced technologies coupled with the healthcare map and using Databricks under the covers, the art of what's possible with generative AI and advanced technologies and data. Thanks.
All right.
Great. Funny thing, I hate to hear my voice on screen, and it's kind of ironic because I'm an actor. There you go. So let's talk about specific use cases where delta sharing can make a huge improvement in what's going on today. And what we have up here is in clinical development. We'll go through commercial and some of the other functional areas within a life sciences company. Let's highlight a few of these. If you look at expediting trial recruitment, imagine, if you will, if you had the fidelity to be able to use something like the healthcare map with delta sharing, so that when a given patient is diagnosed with a disease and you're trying to, and let's say it's a rare disease and you're trying to recruit for your clinical trial, or they have a lab result that's interesting and makes that patient screening eligible for your trial. Imagine if, through the magic of being able to share this data more effectively and efficiently and faster, that you could know about that and be able to take an action upon it and have your reps or an MSL go out and call on the primary investigator or the physician that could be referring that patient into a clinical trial. Obviously de-identified, you don't know who that patient is, you just might know that there's 2 screening eligible patients in this doctor's panel. Same is true of diversity trial participation. It's a key thing that the FDA is trying to accomplish, is to be able to make sure that trials are looking at subpopulations and underrepresented populations for clinical trials. If you could do the same thing, so now that you could have the fidelity to understand if you're looking for whatever race and ethnicity, and you're able to react faster because that data got shared. It's no longer the need to be able to download this data into an SFTP file or an AWS bucket or something like that, and then move it from our environment to a customer's environment, and then import that into your data lakehouse or your data warehouse, and then be able to do that 2 weeks later. You can now do that instantaneously. And all of these other use cases can benefit from that higher speed, higher fidelity. Commercially, it's the same thing. You certainly have that same use case with patient finding, where you want to be able to go to market faster to enable your field reps as well as your digital programs to take actions on the audience that you want to engage much more quickly. And in this same thing, we always used to talk about, as I mentioned, I'm a dinosaur in this industry, but we used to talk about DAP, days after processing. Usually it was a 2-day DAP, a 3-day DAP. That was from when the data aggregator would cut the data for a customer of theirs to when they could actually do something with it. And that DAP was 3, 4, 5 days because of all the data movement and ingestion and being able to suck that data out and into these different environments. Well, DAP is now instantaneous. There's no longer DAP. It's like SAP. It's seconds after processing. The data is just available and available to you via Delta sharing in Databricks. So things like patient finding when you're trying to target physicians, when you're trying to enable your field force for pre-call planning so they can call upon doctors, when you're executing digital marketing programs and trying to react very quickly to the market, having the confluence of a healthcare map that's rich and representative, coupled with instantaneous access to that data to process within your environments, it's really a game changer, and many of our customers are experiencing that benefit. In HEOR RWE, those of you that understand what this is, health economics, outcomes research, and real-world evidence, I'd be lying to you if I said that this is typically a set of use cases that requires instantaneous access. You're usually looking at some historic data, and you're trying to be able to access that data and look back over some period of time, maybe a year study or whatever. But some of these studies are prospective, and in that context, being able to see the data as it's coming into your study and being able to take action upon it or interpret that data and analyze it faster could provide benefit. But I don't want to lie to you and say that this is the use case or the set of use cases where this is really that important. Unless you want to do a study quickly and you need to get access to that data and you don't want to have to set up all of this data movement and ingestion and ETL flows and those kind of things. If you just want to be able to have access to that data instantaneously via Delta sharing, that is now possible and something that will help impact HEOR and RWE.
Yeah, I'd like to say a little bit more about this as well.
Sure.
Not only do you get more real-time information coming in, which you could get from different IoT devices that are available today, some of your Apple Watches in this case, your Android devices, but another major part about this is that we can take this data that's actually coming in from Komodo Health system, so pulling in all this treatment continuation, adherence, and monitoring data, we can augment that with other information we have on social determinants of health and figure out how exactly that's going to actually affect this particular patient. One of the major points about Delta sharing now, when it's being implemented with Databricks, is the ability to augment different sources of data as well into Komodo Healthcare data, and you can actually get much more powerful insights that come out of it.
Absolutely. And then medical affairs, for those of you that work in life sciences, you know medical affairs is a very important function. It's increasingly being invested in at the expense of field reps in many of our pharmaceutical clients. And they're looking for behavior patterns, and when you're looking for behavior patterns and signals, many times in most companies, medical affairs are responsible for dealing with adverse experiences, taking action, whether those are reported by a patient, by a physician, or by some other stakeholder within the value chain of life sciences. And being able to see those signals faster allows you to take action faster, to thwart threats, to make sure that that patients are going to get better outcomes. So certainly being able to do that signal detection faster. They also do quite a bit of work in patient finding, trying to find the right patients for medical education programs, being able to engage with physicians on off-label capabilities. All of this requires access and understanding of what's going on in patient journeys throughout the United States. And when we can serve that data faster and make it available to medical affairs teams, they're that much more effective. And all of that is done through the magic of data sharing and being able to provide that data instantaneously. As soon as we have the data and we prepare it for our customers, it's available immediately to them to process in their lake houses and affect all of this change that they're trying to affect. So that is the use cases, and now Mark's going to talk a little bit about what's going on next.
So I would say what we really want to talk about today is that Komodo Healthcare has been a fantastic partner of Databricks for more than 4 years at this point. And what we understand now is not only are they able to use our product as, let's just say, managed Spark, they're also able to use our product in order to deliver a lot of healthcare data now onto our customers themselves. which means from smaller providers to all the way to very large pharmaceutical companies, we can actually get zero copy access data from Delta sharing from Komodo Healthcare systems today. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited about this. And the reason why I always go is there's a major difference between a data asset and a data product. A data asset, we know what the use cases are actually going to be. It's going to be very, very well defined. But when we take the kind of healthcare data we're getting from Komodo Health today, we augment that with many other different insurance claims data sets that are coming in, we are actually reaching more towards a data product at this point. And Databricks, while we do lead the industry ecosystem today, will not know every single use case out there. In fact, they're more excited to see what our customers are going to deliver in terms of new innovative solutions using this kind of combined approach. So this is very much a transformative force within healthcare. If you ask me, I would say about 3-4 years ago, whether or not I thought that the entire healthcare industry would move towards this particular route, the answer is probably not. The technology just wasn't there. But the promise was, because we had the concept of the cloud. Once more clients actually moved onto the cloud systems, we can actually realize the ability to have a much more interoperable network that we can actually utilize ISP providers like Komodo Healthcare in this case, and many other providers out there in order to really augment data sets and really help drive better patient outcomes. So you get real-time access to data now via Delta sharing technologies. You have enhanced collaboration and accelerated innovation because you have this very, very powerful data set and you combine it with many other data sets at scale using Databricks technology. And very importantly, we're still targeting better patient outcomes. So I'm very excited to see what we're going to get out of this partnership between Komodo and Databricks.
And that is exactly, we're right on the timing that we want. We wanted to leave about 15 minutes for questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand.